Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank Ken Oakes and TQL for sponsoring this event tonight. And I'm sorry that I'm unable to be with you this evening. I'm pleased, though, that the replica of the Vietnam Wall will be trailing to our area, and you'll be honored in that way. To me, it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to be here tonight to pay tribute to the men and women that are our Vietnam veterans. And I'm ever so proud to do just that. You're part of the 1% of Americans that have served our nation in uniform. No one in my family had been in the military, but I grew up watching a TV show with my dad called Combat. Some of you can remember that. It meant a lot to me, watching our American heroes fighting Nazi Germany. And I also grew up during the Vietnam era as a young man, but I always wondered about the people that served, and I wondered, who are those guys? And then we lived through the Reagan era, where he reminded us of the gratitude that we need to show toward our veterans, the 1%. Those that are the people that stand between us and evil while we go about our daily lives. I had seen our country come under attack time and time again. So in 1998, I decided it was my turn to step up, and I joined the Army Reserve. In 2005-2006, I had the honor and privilege of serving as the chief of surgery of a combat support hospital in Iraq, stationed at Abu Ghraib prison a couple years after the scandal. And I tell people about the tour, and I say it's the worst thing that I ever had to do, and those that have been to war understand that. But at the same time, it was the best thing I ever got to do. And why? Because of those that I served with. And I want to tell you about a couple of them. I want to tell you about Staff Sergeant James McNaughton. He was an MP, Army Reservist, a New York City policeman. And one day he and two other sergeants were being tasked with a mission that was going to be dangerous, and one of them had to go. James McNaughton volunteered over the other two. And the reason he did was because the other two had children. Sadly, on that mission, James McNaughton was killed by a sniper. But today, there are two families that have their father because of James McNaughton. And I want to tell you about Major John Pryor. John Pryor, MD. John was a trauma surgeon in Philadelphia. On September 11, 2001, when he realized his country was under attack, he got in his car and he drove to Ground Zero and started helping those that needed care. John decided that there was more he could do, and he joined the Army Reserve in 2004. We served together in Iraq. When we came back, we did a trauma conference together. We became good friends. In 2008, on Christmas Day, in Mosul, Iraq, John had gone back, and after attending church service, he walked out, and he was killed by a mortar, leaving behind his wife and 3 kids. One of the more important things about John, too, was who he was. On his desk, he had a saying by Albert Schweitzer that basically said, you don't live in a world all your own. Your brothers are here too. Do something for others just for the sake of doing it. That's what those in uniform have done. That's what you have done. And although you may not have served with these individuals that I just mentioned, you know others just like them. You know, during the height of the Iraq War, Tom Brokaw spoke at the Stanford University graduation. He told the class that they were the children of privilege, fortunate to be attending one of the finest institutions in the country. The anointed because they had the test scores for admittance and parents that could afford the tuition. And he noted that they could likely expect rapid advancement in almost any endeavor that they choose, and that they were destined to lead the most powerful nation in the world. And the class was beaming, as they should be. And then Brokaw reminded them that the liberties and freedoms that they enjoyed were being defended by young people their age. That at this time, thousands of men and women were fighting, dying, and suffering debilitating injury to ensure that the rest of us could live the American dream. That very notion, that very premise was never more evident than during the Vietnam War. While some went off to college, others went off to serve in war. To serve their nation as they merely were asked to do, only to come home unappreciated by many. Your service, your heroism, is not unappreciated or unnoticed today. Teddy Roosevelt had a quote where he said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood. You know, those who serve in war are probably the greatest lovers of peace, the ones who appreciate peace the most. For those who serve in war, it's a summons that they do not seek, yet it's a call and a responsibility that they do not shirk. War changes you. For me, the national anthem will never be the same. When I hear the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, I think of those we could not save. When I hear, "Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave," or "the land of the free and the home of the brave," I think of those that have saved us and what they have given us. Through all these heroes, through all these thoughts, I think of the words from America the Beautiful, "Who more than self thy country loved, and mercy more than life." And with the actions of the 1% come the dreams of freedom for millions. Not just in America, but around the world. The desire for freedom and the goodness of America was never more evident than when you left Vietnam. And so many tried desperately to come with you. That speaks to your decency, your trustworthiness. It speaks to the dreams of freedom that you represented. You set the stage for freedom in places far beyond Vietnam. And just as those that fought in Korea, you answered the call to defend a country you never knew and a people you never met. From your efforts, the world realized the contrast between freedom and communism. The fire for freedom that you lit, ultimately, inspired America to build our strength, not only with military strength, but with the strength that exists with freedom itself. Because of the fire for freedom that you lit, through your heroic efforts in Vietnam, we saw the world change for the better. Because of the fire for freedom that you lit in Vietnam, the flame did not go out. And in less than 20 years, the USSR fell without firing a shot. Because of the fire for freedom that you lit, walls were torn down, and dozens of nations were liberated from communism and cast into democracy. Your sacrifices were not in vain. Through it all, you were what others cared not to be. You went where others feared to go, and did what others failed to do. And you asked nothing from those that gave nothing. Welcome home. God bless you, and good night.